Hello? Hello? Is there anybody? Hello? Hello? Is there anybody?
Hello? Hello, sir.
Yes. Do you
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
me?
yeah. Within 2-3 minutes, our faculties will be coming.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
I'll wait. Yes. Do you hear me? Okay. Do you hear me? Okay. Thank you.
Hi, sir. Dr. Kenji is there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi, sir. We are just running 15 minutes late. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Okay. I'm listening to the other one. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Fine. We'll be able to start in 15 minutes because it's happening in the other venue. So we need to move the members to this hall. That's the delay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening from India. Good evening, Dr. Kenzi.
Yes, good evening.
We are really sorry. We apologize for this slight delay because, these technical sessions, they
Yeah.
generally have this tendency of overshooting.
Yes, I watch it there.
Yeah, and particularly, if we have some Q&A sessions, then it's difficult to check because we have a lot of students and research scholars also attending this particular conference. So we, in fact, time permitting, encourage this. So we are really sorry, and you are most welcome to our this panel discussions today. And of course, the theme of our discussion today is lessons learned from 2004 tsunami, case studies and best practices. Right. So I think I will not go into the details. Would you like to introduce the other participants one by one, please? I'm Dr. S.K. Vadavan. I'm presently adjunct professor with Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, that is Amrita
Okay.
University. Formerly, I was with the Geological Survey of India,
Oh, okay.
the Earth Science Department in Government of India, and I superannuated as Director General, Geological Survey of India. After superannuation, I have been associated with the various research work on geohazards, particularly the landslides and the floods. And of course, we are teaching MTech courses on geoinformatics and Earth observation. I'm part of that, and very happy to be amongst all our participants here. We have had a lot of detailed presentations on lessons learned and the case studies. So some of those will be summarizing, and maybe we'll hear more from our other participants here. So thank you very much. May I request my co-chair, Dr. Sajid, to please introduce the...
I'm Dr. Sajid Kumar, Assistant Professor, Amrita School for Sustainable Futures. So we have a list of panel members are there. We have first one, Dr. Sudha Arlikati. Ma'am.
So we are supposed to introduce ourselves?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Professor Sudha Arlikati. I'm a professor and research head in the School for Sustainable Futures. I come with an experience in architecture and planning and then disaster science. So I consider myself as a disaster sociologist. I have worked as a practitioner for about 10 years and then as an academician for about 24 years. And so I've been here in the United States for about 17, then in the UAE for 5, and then more recently in India. So that's about me. My area of research is disaster risk reduction, looking at risk communication and housing and sheltering. Thank you so much.
So next we have Dr. Midila is there. She is representing Kerala State Disaster Management Authority. Midila.
Hello, sir. Myself, Dr. Midhila Malliga. So, I'm basically a social science researcher, but concentrating on researches among gender, climate change, especially coastal women and tribal women. Since I'm working on climate, automatically my core is related to disaster management also. So, here I will be sharing a little bit of experience which I had because, fortunately or unfortunately, I was able to do my post graduation thesis and MPhil thesis on Alapad, and also like that kind of experience I will be sharing, and also my experience from Kerala State Disaster Management Authority, since we've been running the Tsunami Ready Certificate program for 9 coastal villages in Kerala. So thank you.
Thank you. Another panel member is Mr. Umar Fikri. He is representing National Disaster Management Authority, Maldives.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Umar from the Maldives with the National Disaster Management Authority. I've been with the authority for quite some time since 2013 with a small break where I went and worked with the Red Crescent Society in the country.
And one more panel member is there, Mr. Chaturya Liarenge. He is representing Disaster Management Center, Sri Lanka. Sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes or no?
Yeah. Good evening. I am Chatura Lianarachi, Director Preparedness of Disaster Management Center, Sri Lanka. In fact, I am having more than 15 years of experience in the field of disaster management as a practitioner, and also I wrote some journal papers and did a lot of research related to disaster risk reductions. And basically, I am doing this planning, policy making, at the same time, preparation of checklists, SOPs, and all under my responsibility.
Can we request you, sir, to please introduce yourself, Dr. Kenji?
Yes, my name is Kenji Satake. I'm a professor emeritus of the University of Tokyo Earthquake Research Institute. My background is seismology and tsunami. Okay. My background is geophysics. Yes.
Okay, good. Of course, we have been having detailed presentations since morning. And of course, several case studies were presented in a parallel session. Some of the key areas which I could identify based on what I could understand is that there was, particularly 2004 tsunami time, there was a lack of understanding of this phenomenon. In fact, many of the communities, many of the people had never experienced this kind of onslaught from the sea. And people were not really aware of the storm, what is tsunami. So that was a lack of preparation. And then we also had lack of regional collaboration. So these were the major drawbacks or shortcomings. And later on, we learned that this particular hazard has cascaded into multi-hazards. There were several other associated hazards. And therefore, some of the lessons learned also involved that we really need to treat the entire phenomenon in a holistic manner. We have to really understand the various offshoots and cascading effects of tsunami. And our treatment and our understanding of the entire phenomenon has to take a different course so that we comprehensively understand the phenomenon and try to find ways to mitigate some of these effects. Third aspect is that we really had very inadequate resource allocations, particularly on such issues, especially from the emerging economies, from the developing countries. So very meager funds allocation were there. But then in the course of our morning presentations, we also learned that most vulnerable segments of the society were women and elderly people. So they were the other targets which needed to be treated in a more comprehensive manner so that they are taken care. And then, of course, as we learned from our Sri Lankan friend, Mathura sir, that legislation, the legal aspects, I think this is really needed in many cases wherein we are having a lot of conflict of interests. So far as community versus the developmental agencies are concerned. So this aspect is also very important. And we'll also develop more on this while we discuss on these issues. So if you kindly permit me, I will raise 2 or 3 aspects wherein we need to also focus apart from whatever you want to present. So one is how are the nature-based solutions? What kind of applications we can promote to develop nature-based solutions? For example, this mangroves, there was a question in the morning. And also we used to have beach barriers, the dune systems, which were the nature's own systems of, safeguarding our coastal lands. So how do we feel about it? Because we have experiences from different countries here. Next point I would request you to please go into details is about how best we can adopt modern technology combining with the traditional knowledge. That is the ancient intelligence. We are talking about the modern artificial intelligence, but I'm sure our communities in Asia and elsewhere are really rich in ancient intelligence, traditional knowledge. So how do we combine these two approaches? And whatever best possible modern techniques we have, whether they are acceptable to the local community, whether we are in a position to communicate with the people so that they appreciate what is the use of this modern technology. So with these two major ones, and of course the other one, if time permits, we can go into the role of spiritual leaders in promoting compassion-driven strategies for mitigation of these effects. Okay, so these are the three major areas which I think I could identify. But then, of course, there are other ways. If you people agree, we can discuss on those ways also. So may I first begin with you, sir, Dr. Kenji, sir. Would you like to initiate the discussions on this?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, I gave a slide, but it's okay. I don't have to use the slide.
Okay, we can have a PowerPoint presentation if you have. Yeah, we can start with the presentation if you want.
Do you have my slides, or should I share my screen?
You can share your screen, sir, if possible.
Okay. Let me just pull out the. Okay, I don't want to be. I need to be short, right? Okay. Do you? Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you see my? Do you see my screen?
Yes, we do see your screen now. No, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I just summarized that the lesson learned that 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was generated by the huge earthquake, as you mentioned, magnitude 1.1. And such a giant earthquake was not expected in the Indian Ocean. But recent paleoseismological studies in the last 2 decades indicate that similar events occurred in the past, like several hundred years ago. So that is kind of what we learned, scientists learned. Then the early warning system has been improved using various modern techniques and installed globally. But I'll talk about this tomorrow in my keynote lecture. So I'll leave this one. But then for my some best practice in the recent earthquake in Japan, Noto, January this year, among a few hundred casualties, those from tsunami are very few because of the preparedness and early warning. So let me just quickly go. So Indian Ocean, probably I don't have to say this much. But as I said, the Indian Ocean tsunami occurred in Sumatra and Andaman Islands, where this is plate boundary. So we had some earthquakes, but the previous earthquakes in the last century was not big. Magnitude was less than 8. But then 2004 Indian Ocean, 2004 earthquake was huge. So we even seismologists didn't anticipate such a large event. However, as I said, in the last 20 years, we have many studies have done. Myself visited like Andaman Island, and this is what happened in Southern Island, Port Blair, land has subsided, whereas Northern Andaman has uplifted. But if you look at some geology, like a geological layer, you see some evidence of past subsidence. Or in the north, we have some, the previous one is coral microatoll, and we found some fossil corals indicating the past event. So by studying this, we found that similar earthquake happened in the past. The problem is maybe like this is like a once in several hundred years event. So we have to look at some history or geological scale. So that's one thing we learned. And then, as I said, the Noto earthquake this year, the tsunami, this is related early warning. But earthquake happened in 1606 in Japan time. Then we issued, JMA issued earthquake early warning. Then followed by main shock. Then another earthquake early warning was issued. Then within 2 minutes from the big event, the tsunami warning was issued, and then major tsunami warning was updated to the major tsunami warning. So then also because in this area we made the government, local government, made the tsunami hazard maps. And actual inundation was actually the smaller one, smaller than the actual the inundation map. And this shows the evacuation time. Horizontal axis is just minute. You can see within like 10 minutes or 20 minutes, most of people evacuated. So quick evacuation saved lives. And so I have some picture, but probably I have some video, but probably I don't have time to show this one. So just I stop here. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, would you like to make some comments on the three issues which I suggested?
What?
One on the nature-based solutions.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, nature-based solution. Yeah. We have some like in 2011 we have some forest, the forest, coastal forest, and that actually that was destroyed by tsunami, but that at least protected or at least delayed or reduced some impact of the tsunami. So that's I don't know. It's a kind of man-made, but the nature in the forest that was effective, and that is also been made even after the tsunami. Then second point, you said modern technology and traditional. As I said, some of the earthquakes are very long recurrence time, a few hundred years. And in the case of Indian Ocean, we have to do some geology. But in Japan, we have some written old literature, historical documents indicating the past event. In fact, the penultimate event previous to the 2011 was documented in historical literature. That happened about 1,000 years ago. So that kind of it's a kind of ancient knowledge, traditional or ancient knowledge was very useful to educate people and educate ourselves as well.
Right.
Okay.
And some thoughts on the third issue, that is, if we have some spiritual leaders who
Well,
actually lead from the front.
well, we don't have that kind of leader, special leaders in
Because
Japan, and yeah.
see, I can give you the example in Kerala. We never waited. Once this tragedy had struck, the spiritual leader here, our Amma, our Chancellor, respected Amma, and her team, they immediately swung into action and started helping the rehabilitation and the recoupment. So
Well, actually,
and then
yeah,
there was
actually,
a lot
what
of
happened?
support, lot of public support for this, and all those followers also they joined in, and they established number of relief camps and all that. So that was a very successful event actually. And if we have this kind of following, wherein people join in selflessly to really extend whatever help is needed at such hours of hazard. So that is what I was trying to solicit some examples from Japan.
Yeah, it's not necessarily spiritual leaders, but we have some communities and community have a leaders, right? Then there's a community leader or just informed, encourage or almost order everybody to evacuate. So that's how and there also we have the video I could have shown that is like that the people, I mean, young people helping elderly people to evacuate quickly. And then also they did some practice, periodical practice beforehand. So that helped quickly evacuation. And then no tsunami casualty happened in this January earthquake and tsunami.
Okay, thank you. Now, may I request Mr. Chatura, sir, please, can you share your thoughts, or you have a PowerPoint also?
Submit the PowerPoint presentation. Yes, it's in.
For the panel discussions or just keynote address? Panel, no.
I think I have WhatsApped it. keynote only oral. In
Okay,
fact, I just want to
please.
highlight in this particular preparedness is itself uh, about the IOA exercise, because for the exercise we have to cover all the steps like identification of risk, then the preparing plans at the same time, standard operation procedures, even the tabletop exercise before this particular exercise. So it cover all the spectrum of preparedness itself. So that's why I just wanted to highlight in this preparedness, in fact, case studies on the IO wave exercises. So uh,
Yeah.
No, let's go. He's ready. But in the meantime, you may answer the first question. Maybe
yeah.
while we are
Yeah.
preparing.
In fact, the nature-based solutions, of course, in Sri Lanka, we have practiced. Even we are having this natural mangrove, the plant forest in the coastal line, at the same time sand dunes. So it's a more sensitive in the coastal zone itself. If something change, definitely it might impact the other places. So we have experienced it in developing or rather building the Oluville harbor. So one of the part. Uh, coastal erosion happens. So likewise, these things we have to change it very sensitively. So the Moon group, of course, it cannot be replanted or having more forests itself, because it's encroaching the other parts also. So you have to be careful on replanting. Otherwise, if it is not naturally, there itself. At the same time, sand dunes, timely it will create in the ocean. Sometimes it goes to the shoreline itself. So these are more sensitive stuff. We have to study a lot before you introduce new versions of those things, rather than protecting existing sand dunes and the mangroves itself. So
No, but these are the natural processes, How about the human interventions? Sometimes, there is a degradation through human activities also. So are there any ways to check it or regulate it?
in fact, nobody, touching these sensitive areas, rather than, construction going on with the government intervention itself, because these fishermen and the people who live there, they protecting their natural resources there. So if there's a kind of a national intervention or a building a highway or a harbor itself, then that will damage the existing the natural resources. That's what.
Yeah, Mr. Chaudhary, in the morning, I think you mentioned about some legislation or some legal aspects about it.
In fact, yes,
What are
because
those?
after the tsunami, earlier we didn't have such establishment, even the disaster management center, or any other relief assistant, other than the government administrative service. We didn't have such system in place. Now, after the tsunami, the Disaster Management Act number 13 of 2005 introduced. At the same time, established the Disaster Management Center. So where it gives all the provisions to mitigate, prepare, recover, and also relief assistance and the rehabilitation itself. At the same time, the president is the chairperson of the council. At the same time, prime minister is the vice chairman. All 9 provincial chief ministers there. At the same time, 21 line ministries there. Ministers occupying this particular uh, uh, council. And disaster management center is the implementing and coordination arm of disaster risk reduction activities in the country. And we are having different levels like national, subnational, and the local level. Where these directions coming from the council, it's a political council. So that is the legislative systems. And at the same time, in the act, it says we have to develop the national disaster management plan, which covers the overall national disaster management framework. Then the national emergency operation plan, which covers just before, during, and just after a disaster, who's doing what roles and responsibilities of each and every stakeholder agencies engaged with disaster, and especially the institutional DM plan. So that particular plan with the entities who directly involved with disaster management, say suppose like Triforces, what is their role and how to, protect themselves first. That is self-organizational readiness, despite the natural impact happen, or rather their assets damaged by the natural disaster, they have to protect themselves. The second one is continue their service while they have been impacted. The third one is they have to cater for the additional surge demand. So that is the institutional plan, and they have to submit it to the council and get it approved. Then it will become a legal document. So that is the legislative system available in Sri Lanka.
Do they also have authority to regulate land use on the coastal tracts?
Coastal, of course, Coast Conservation Department already having the legislative powers and all. No any kind of interventions or constructions uh, doing in the coastal or the sensitive areas without any approval from the Coastal Conservation Department. And
Okay.
also the act is more powerful. If you do something there, definitely that will be destroyed, and at the same time they have to go for court and compensate it.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So, no, is the PowerPoint ready for him? Or do you have a pen drive with the PowerPoint? Or do
No,
you want to make some more additional points or?
No, in fact, I will
available?
present with this one because I just wanted to say the importance of this particular IOWave exercise, because it engaged with all the regional countries in the basin, Indian Ocean Ring Association or IORA, at the same time 28 countries in the Indian Ocean. So where this IOWTMS already mapped the risk zones and the scenarios that can be impacted to this regional countries itself, and also they have pointed out the arrival of the wave and the height of the wave, and at the same time penetration. So that is help for us to prepare ourselves and the evacuation itself. So especially this kind of threat zones, that the wave arrival time and also the amplitude, those things map. So in Sri Lankan context, of course, uh, we have mapped all 14 coastal districts. At the same time, prepare this local level emergency operation plan at the evacuation center, how to evacuate, what kind of warning that they receive, those kind of information is there. Since, being an island nation, our all the coastal line having a risk, as I mentioned recent, in the visit in the this particular exhibition, because the reflected wave of the tsunami 2004 highly impacted to the southern part. That is the reflected wave from the Maldives,
Okay.
not the first one, right? So that's the thing that we have to, it's a lesson learned. So likewise, we cannot say that the first wave is the worst itself. So those are the things. Then based on that, the early warning mechanism that is placed in the IOWTMS we are using, because we are in a distance nation more than 1,800 kilometers away. We didn't feel the shake, unlike Indonesia. They are having the local tsunamis, but of course we need to reach those warning. Otherwise, nobody knows until it reaches to our coastline. So that's the important thing. So we develop a system with the guidance of IOWTMS, that is the National Tsunami Warning Center, and the National Disaster Management Center as the NDMO, how to get the warning, analyze it, and disseminate to the last person in the community. Time taken for that. Standard operation procedures were developed and also published in UNESCO. So then we have engaged with this biannual exercise frequently. There we test the standard operation procedures, improve community awareness and response capacities, and participate in evacuation drill, and at the same time identify ways to improve the system effectiveness and identify changes that can improve its effectiveness, because recently we have experienced 5.8 magnitude, I would say, tremor, southern part of Sri Lanka, where the scientists saying that there will be a crack developing in the Australian plate itself. If something happens, there's no any buoy or detection things located in there. So if we are having such thing, definitely it might impact it to our coastline without a warning itself. So those are the things particularly I just wanted to highlight. Yes, exactly.
You want to continue with this or?
Yeah, next slide, please. This is, in fact, this is the, go to the previous slide. This is the 20th Commemoration International Symposium that we have conducted recently in 4th November, with 4 thematic plenary sessions with 2 practitioners and 2 researchers and the stakeholders. And it is in line with the Sendai framework for priority actions and successfully completed. And at the same time, international community or other international presenters were there in the symposium. That's a kind of commemorations that we have conducted recently. Then these are the zones that I have mentioned. And still, Sri Lanka having the highest, greater risk from tsunami comparing other natural hazards. It's in the OCHA, the risk index, global risk index, and the GRA report. And as I mentioned, our coastline is 1,340 kilometers, 14 coastal districts, 78 divisions secretariat, and 1,508 GNDs. Over 1.2 million live in this coastal line. So we have mapped those things. Then, as I mentioned, the role of IOWTMS is the monitoring, then monitor the sea level rise, risk assessment, numerical modeling, warning, at the same time mitigation, preparedness, and response. It have to be more collective, collaborative response as per the the region as a whole, that we have to respond to mitigate such impact with the technical technology and the knowledge experience having with the region. So these are the warning system that they have practiced: hazard detection, threat evaluation, alert dissemination, and preparedness and response at the community level. So regional, national, local. So this is the Sri Lankan standard operation procedure and the warning method, tools, and SOPs, what is available from national to the last mile. So as I mentioned, National Tsunami Warning Center, NDMO, and the local disaster management organizations under disaster management center, under one central coordinations, we are implementing, carried out those activities. So these are some of the photographs of the exercise that we have conducted recently, IO Wave 23 exercise. And they are institutional, we tested the institutional capacities, institutional mandates, SOPs, institutional, the roles and responsibilities, awareness, end-to-end warning systems, mechanism at every level, network of information flow. So how we done DEX studies before the actual simulation, national stakeholder meetings, tabletop exercise, a sensitization program with the LDMO, that is local disaster management or disaster management district level officers, community awareness programs, IOW simulation exercise incorporating communities. So in fact, these are the, the lesson learned. In fact, risk, these observations made by different stakeholder agencies, because we have submitted the evaluation form and get those evaluations unbiased, independent, with the support of all the expert from the academia. We have, disseminated to all district and get it collected. So limited institutional engagement, lack of clearly defined roles of four critical stakeholders such as GSMB. That is because our Sri Lankan context, NTWC act as the Department of Meteorology, but the GSMB is responsible for earthquake monitoring. So that is not there. So that have been identified. I'm not going to tell all those stuff because you can read it there. Even those are, the signages shows that what kind of a gap is there in this particular institution in itself. I'll share these presentations with you. Then, of course, we are having 77 early warning towers located in the all on the coastal line. The effectiveness of early warning system within the distance itself we measured. We send a communication expert to listen and clarity and the audibility. Those things were tested. These are the outcome. At the same time, I just wanted to show this particular. Oh, no, it's here the event actions timeline. You can clearly say earthquake bulletin after 10 minutes, then whole process until the evacuation 44 minutes taken. Then for the evacuations, we have remained 56 minutes. That is more advanced way of evacuating because we are having enough time to evacuate all the community from the coastline to the safe locations.
You have already identified those safe locations?
In fact, yes, because from the last 2004 tsunami, comparatively, it can be the worst case scenario itself. So, as far as Sri Lanka is directly impacted, so beyond that particular line, we have identified vertical evacuation at the same time. The beyond that particular impacted line, safe locations with the facilities available like shelter, then the toilet facilities and other remaining facilities for the
And how is the community involvement? Is community also prepared? I mean, do you have community leaders to act on their own?
Exactly, because as Dr. Kanji mentioned, in our country also, like the same in the region also, we are having these community leaders, spiritual leader, not the spiritual leaders, but religious leaders.
Okay.
So they trusted on that particular religion. Even in Kilinochi, the priest of the church, having the PA system to all communities. So he's publishing when he received the DMC,
Message.
the early warning, he will disseminate it. So the people move into the church. Likewise, different system in different countries having practice, but it's same in our part of the country.
Quite. So, right then, thank you very much, Mr. Chathra. Now, can we move on to our next participant, Mr. Umar Fikri, sir, from Maldives? Yeah, you have a question. Okay, please. I'm sorry, are there any questions or any other inputs? You are most welcome to please intervene.
Yeah, we have coastal regulation.
Please use the mic. Put it on.
In India, we have this CRZ, that is Coastal Regulation Zone. So similarly, do you have any regulations there in your country?
Yes, after the tsunami, we put the buffer zone, 60 meters buffer zone. But ultimately, we understood that the 50 meters buffer zone will not be practical for the fishing community.
Here
At the
it is
same
200 meters.
Yeah, at the same time, the tourism itself, they have to be in the show itself. So what we impose is to have more regulation for the building constructions itself. At the same time, resilient building and the vertical evacuation in the coastline.
So we have to look into all the architecture and 200
Exactly,
meters.
exactly. Because tourists, all the hotels in repute hotel have to prepare their evacuation plan at the same time the what do you call that emergency management plan. So that kind of a gathering location, evacuation procedures at the same time they have to rehearse it. They will get the international IOS 9002 standard when they having such thing practice frequently.
And you were talking about the mangroves. Mangroves nearly take 13 years to grow. In that way, what is your emergency measure which will take for the next preparedness?
In fact, as I mentioned, because our fishing community will not be touching, or the tourism industry not touching these sand dunes or these mangroves. It's growing, the naturally at the same time. It will not be the purposely growing, because otherwise it will, as I mentioned, encroaching the land. The people knows it. With their experience, indigenous knowledge, they knows it. They use that particular mangroves, for the wood things, the other purposes they are use it. So the people are not destroying though or destructing that. At the same time, our regulations are more powerful. The forest regulations. So nobody, touching. Only the politicians and the government interventions will, engage and developing these whatever the unauthorized constructions or destroying those stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Implementation part is more applicable there, right? And the public involvement is also there.
Yeah, one down. Yeah, sir, being an island country, suppose a warning happened, but it's the minimum time to take the people to escape into a safe zone.
Question, because I showed it to you, because we need at least 40 minutes for the total evacuation, because we rehearse it, we practice several times, and also we engage with international exercise like IOV exercise. So at least we need 40 minutes lead time for the total evacuation. But when we are having these particular warnings from the IOWTMS, within 44 minutes time, still we will be able to evacuate. And also, your point, we already counted and put into the regulations saying that if it is 9 point magnitude, uh, uh, less than 10 kilometers, the water column, and happen in the seabed, we are not waiting for any warning from any country. Total evacuation will be doing. So if it is 9 to 7.9, we just wait for one this service provider's warning. If it is like a marginal scenario like 6.9 to 7.9, we wait for all three messages from service providers. So that's practice in our country. This is not practice in the region.
I hope there are scientists and there are people who are monitoring this. If those are not actively monitoring it, then maybe you can miss it sometimes. No?
That's what, because recently one earthquake happened. Only the Indian inquest produced this particular warning. Other two not produce it. So that kind of communications, the faults that can happen. But uh, poor Sri Lanka, we couldn't experience the shake itself. So until it reached, we cannot do anything. So we need to have more proactive or holistic approach to save our coastal communities. Even 80% of the community lies in the coastal line. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a question, sir.
Sir, actually, we were told that immediately after 2004 tsunami, the need for a tsunami warning system was badly felt, and we installed it in 2007. So when we look the case of Pacific Ocean, we were told that the tsunami-genic earthquake usually happens in tectonic plate boundaries or subduction zones, like in Sumatra or in Makran. But in Pacific Ocean, we had occurrences of tsunami-genic earthquake happening in beyond tectonic plate boundaries due to the realignment of revibration of tectonic plates. We had the same in Sri Lanka also, south of Sri Lanka in 2012, but the intensity was very less. So my question is, are we well equipped to predict a tsunami and issue a warning if the tsunami-genic earthquake is happening beyond the subduction zone? That is my first question. Second question is,
Dr. Kenji, can you please comment on this? This is a geophysical question, tectonic boundaries.
Yes. Well, actually, if we look at the world, for the earthquake tsunami, most or not most, all the tsunami-genic earthquake occurs in subduction zones. So in the case of Indian Ocean, in the Sumatra Andaman zone, and also the Makaran subduction zone, that's the only possible tsunami sources. But tsunami can be generated from other phenomena like volcanic eruptions, like Anak Krakatau, or submarine landslides. So although these may be local effect, but a tsunami can happen from other phenomena than earthquakes.
Yes, Dr. Kanji, because recently we have experience in Lombok, Sulawesi, Indonesia. So the earthquake happened, National Emergency Operations Center sent the warning. Then it is evacuated because the magnitude is less than that. So after that, submarine landslide happened, tsunami impacted, 1,000 odd people died. So these are the uncertainty of the prediction and also sending early warning.
And also, sir, you said you marked certain locations as safe. My question is, how can you mark those locations in the era of changing bathymetry and changing topography? Because I'm coming from a district, Trivandrum, where the 2004 tsunami didn't happen there due to the slope, the bathymetry, etc. But due to a lot of construction activities concerned with the region board, the bathymetry keeps on changing, the slope is changing, the topography is changing. So can I mark the Trivandrum coast is not at all vulnerable to tsunami? Since you said, because you mark certain locations as safe. After 10-meter contour, we can say so. But near the coast, how can we say that? That's my question.
In fact, very good questions, because with the climate change impact, sea level rise, or the high tide itself, if a tsunami happen, it will move more than what we expected. Even in Great East earthquake, 6 meter tsunami wall there, but it is overtopped, or rather go beyond the limit that they have developed as a mitigation measure. But in Sri Lankan context, I would say that Sri Lanka, shoreline is 30 meters above the sea level. At the same time, the bathymetric impact, it's 1 inch or something with the bathymetry. Unlike, other countries, we don't have such steep slope in itself. And the orientation, or rather earthquake happen in Sumatra, the earth movement, like, it's a huge impact that happen, like, what do you call nuclear impact or something that can ever happen that particular day, and directly towards Sri Lankan context, the magnitude or the directions happen directly to Sri Lanka. That's what I told you, because as far as 2004 tsunami concerned, that is the worst case scenario for us. But never know, because if a meteorite fall or an earthquake happen in southern part of Sri Lanka, there will be. But at this particular time, of course, we have demarcated, because in the IUW TMS guidance, you cannot evacuate a normal person more than 1.5 kilometers. So that have to be keep in mind. Otherwise, you have to do particular transportation for the evacuation itself. So that's how we demarcated. But still, we are not go beyond that particular line. Still, we'll have 1 meter height there.
Okay. So I think now we can move on to our next speaker, Mr. Fakri, sir. Mr. Umar Fakri.
Yeah, thank you. I think very good discussion so far. In terms of the question around nature-based solutions, I did try and highlight this in the morning today as well. For a country like the Maldives, evacuation to higher ground is not an option. Keeping a buffer zone is not an option. Some islands are way too small that we can't even say 50 feet is a buffer zone. Then there won't be sufficient space for other activities. For us, what we would need to ultimately do is softer skills. Started from basic things like teaching everybody to swim. When I was young, there was a government mandated swimming program for all school children, which has been discontinued. But I think those are critical elements. Reflecting back to the nature-based solutions, the Maldives have had this habit of investing on infrastructure projects, particularly around transportation, which would either modify the island, vegetation, coastlines to build concrete reinforced harbor facilities for accessibility. And then we have the other habit of reclamation, because there's a scarcity of land. So we would definitely need to, come up with or create new land, which has shown to exacerbate, already severe conditions. Our experience is that without proper drainage or without proper, road facilities, these reclaimed lands, newly built harbor islands with these options would usually result in more severe flooding in the coming monsoon season. I think from the experience so far, we would definitely need to invest more, research more on nature-based solutions, which we haven't done so far. There have been prototypes developed around how do we, first of all, grow mangroves in places that we don't have mangroves. How do we use mangroves to build, natural harbors, or make sure that we do create buffer zones to combat tidal wave activities, swell wave activity, and erosion as well. But we would need to do further on this. This is an area that we currently lack investment and activities so far. In terms of traditional knowledge, we do tend to document the use of traditional community knowledge in every island level disaster management plans we do. Like I said, it's the most rudimentary form of risk assessment for us, where we go to the communities, use participatory rural appraisal techniques to capture traditional and community knowledge on hazard zones, on areas where there is flooding and other sort of zones, and these can be used for further environmental level impact assessments or other form of scientific detailed island risk assessments. For us, traditional community knowledge is the most rudimentary basic form of island level hazard vulnerability capacity assessments. The video earlier today and our visit to Amma, I think, shows how compassionate leadership could be an inspirational form of motivating island communities, or any communities to speed up developmental activities. And I think compassionate leadership is quite important when there is a crisis situation, where people would show more trust in the compassionate leader rather than just any leader. And I think that was demonstrated by the video today in the morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fakri. Now, are there any comments or questions?
Yeah, one single point, sir.
Yeah.
You told about natural solutions. Why we are not dealing with natural precursors? Because there are animal precursors are there, and nature itself is providing so many precursors. Why we are not connecting it with the extra modern, emanating new tools of disaster preparedness and mitigation? So actually, that will be the need of the hour, no?
I think we are in a zone where, like my colleague from Sri Lanka has mentioned, we wouldn't feel any tremor. So for a tsunami that could happen miles away, using those natural precursors is not inherently within our, it's not community knowledge for us. So I think working on that would be quite different in the Maldives than if we compare it to a place like the Aceh zone as well. For other things, traditional knowledge and precursors is widely used. For example, our fishermen's can read the weather very well. They would know, when the monsoons would change, how the monsoons would change. They could read, tidal wave patterns to see, whether there would be more severe tidal wave activity on the beaches today. So those are already in place, and I think passed down very well. Again, that being said, we should do more to invest on those, documenting and making sure that we relay it to future generations.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that was
May
very.
I ask?
Yeah, please. Dr.
Yes.
Kenji, there's a question from you.
Yeah, one of the lessons for the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was that occurred in December 26, and many tourists from Europe died in like Thailand or Sri Lanka. And I understand that Maldives is also a very popular tourist destination. Like my daughter went to Maldives for the honeymoon. So what kind of things you preparedness you do for these tourists? Like
Every tourist facility would have what we call, emergency response plans in place.
mhm.
Maldives has a very diversified tourism actors in the country, starting from, big hotel chains like the Shangri-Las, the Marriotts, and, the usual suspects, to, local businesses doing tourism operations. I've been to Shangri-La Resort down south, where they showed me a beacon. Once they press the beacon, an automatic process would start where, a Boeing A320 would be, chartered from Singapore all the way to the Maldives to evacuate their tourists out of the country. And this could go to, local tourists, where they would have organized within themselves, if there is a fire incident, if there is tidal wave flooding in the islands, um, they organize within themselves to, move tourists from one facility to the other, because safety and security of tourists is vital and important for the Maldives. If we don't have the trust from tourists, we won't have, 1.5 million people visiting the Maldives every year. That's like twice the Maldivian population. So that is very, and usually, you won't find the sort of modifications that I have mentioned just now on these resort islands. These they go for, keeping the nature as intact as possible for us to attract tourists. So, if there is a inhabited island experience in flooding in front of a resort island, most likely the resort island wouldn't have flooding, because, their roads wouldn't be paved. They would have sand roads, which, has the coping capacity to, absorb the flood waters. So that's the situation in Maldives. You'd find very drastic situations from an inhabited island to a resort island.
So one more
In Sri
question.
Lankan context itself, as my colleague mentioned, in the tsunami, 2004, of course, such system not in place. After that, our regulator is the Tourism Development Authority. So they are regulating these emergency operations have to be in place. At the same time, they have to get the guidance from Disaster Management Center. So they have to rehearse. At the same time, they have to, have an evacuation plan where there's no any particular access. So now in the coastline, these, as he mentioned, the Sandrilla or the 7-star, 5-star hotel, all the hotels having this particular evacuation planning and the evacuation itself. So in our country, of course, there are highlands and at the same time, vertical evacuation that can be done. My question is from my colleague itself. So don't you have such regulation in place in the coastal, hotel itself to for vertical evacuation like Sandrilla? Are they facilitate for that?
Our model of tourism is different, where, we would usually have one resort, one hotel in one island, for the higher end tourism sector. And you would find, our most, attraction is water bungalows over water. So mandating those would require radical form in the. Yes. Yeah, I mean, rather than building a 10-story building just for evacuation, there would be more, easier solution. Just get everybody on a boat and take them to the high sea, where they won't be affected by a tsunami. And a high sea, a deep ocean is like a 30-minute drive from the coastline, where we would have 3 hours from if there's a tsunami in the Aceh subduction zone, or around 90 minutes from the Makran zone. So there are more easier solutions, and most of these tourist facilities would more or less have enough boats to get people on board and out onto the sea.
So in
Yep.
case if we are not getting any alert,
I beg your pardon?
if we are not getting any alert on tsunami, then since it is an island, evacuation it will become a very big problem.
Evacuation in the sort of sense that you would do here, you would do in
Because if
Sri
it is a
Lanka.
high-story building, also it's okay.
Yes.
And the waves it passes more than 10 feet high. So in that case, how the evacuation will take place there?
again, evacuation in the form of what they would do in a bigger land mass is completely different from what we would do. Like I said, if there is a warning, we could always get people onto the seas, which would be the safest place for them to be, rather than a high story building. If they don't have, then probably getting them to the highest point in an island, and making sure that they have life jackets or life vests on or available on the scene would be the best in terms of saving lives. Our islands are so small. um, for The waves that we experience is quite different as well. We don't have the upward and the downward thrust. It's just waves going from one end to the other end, and going off. This also depends on a lot of other thing other areas where what could be the potential height of a wave. That would depend on the bathymetry and many other things. But tsunami has shown in the Maldives and in Sri Lanka as well, a good green buffer zone could limit the intensity of the waves.
Right.
Coconut palms are the best,
Absolutely.
to reduce. So, and other sort of beach native beach vegetation. So I think investing in those and making sure that we have those in place is the way forward.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you. So we'll move on to our next speaker, Dr. Midila.
Just wanted to interrupt. The other room, they've almost finished. And after this, we have a short cultural program. So Dr. Mithila can be the last speaker.
No, we cannot
Yes,
spare
sir.
you.
No, yes, sir, sir. Seriously,
We are
you will
definitely-
hear me in the
No,
next
no,
few
we are
days.
definitely keeping you at the land because you are the host. You are part of our own team. So we'll give you 2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever little time you want. So Dr. Midla, please.
So, like, my presentation is little bit different from what we have seen in the morning. It's completely related to, it is aligned with what Swamiji has been telling. So, like, I won't be able to, since I'm a social science researcher also, I won't be able to give much explanation for this kind of questions. But so, I beg your pardon first. So, what I learned from 2004 tsunami, and what are the limited experience which I have, and what are the some of the best cases which I came through, that I will be discussing now. So when the 2004 tsunami came, it was considered to be one of the largest rupture. So that time we were completely unaware what exactly happened, because tsunami was really like for Indian Ocean, tsunami was really like something new. So people during that time, I think I was hardly 6 or 7 years old. So in many of the newspaper and news channel, it was like people are crying, we are cursed, like it's the wrath of God, like it's a punishment. What exactly we are going to do? It's never happened to us. So that was the situation which was happening. So is that really the case? So during my research also, I was, first of all, what I did is like I tried to make the community aware. It's not because of something you have done, it's something different. So next slide. Next slide. At 7 o'clock, I think 7:30 to 8, when the first tsunami happened in the Bande Aceh region, actually it took, maybe you can go, you can come down. Huh. So the last slide, you can see the progress. Then from Indonesia, it went to Thailand, and afterwards it went to Sri Lanka. And then by the end, around 11, it reached, actually, it completely gulped Sri Lanka, and it reached to our coast, especially Kerala, Tamil Nadu. So this was the situation. So it's actually, next slide. Next slide. Next. Next. Uh-huh. So this is not exactly our problem, or like it's the wrath of God or something. It's exactly because we were really lagging somewhere behind. For instance, there was not at all any information, because during that time we had only Pacific Ocean, like early warning or tsunami early warning system on the Pacific Ocean. So also we were and having no data, and there were no early warning system in place, and we were not prepared at all, and there were lack of infrastructure and effective communication communication tools was also not there, because I heard like in Sri Lanka, one of the deadliest train accident happened in Tsunami, because 1,500 passengers were there. The administration knew that tsunami has happened. The train was going directly towards the tsunami, like tsunami area, but they were not having a phone in the train. So similarly, that also happened, because recently I saw one documentary in National Geographic channel. So in that, people were selling in the Pacific early warning tsunami center. They knew that it happened. It's from 8, it's going to 8.8, 8.9, but they don't have any other means to communicate to the people what exactly is happening. So these were some of the areas which were really failed, and because of that matter, we had that kind of worst casualty. Next slide. So, I have my lessons learned in two aspects from my academic journey, because I researched in Alapad region, and another one is currently I'm working as a state project officer with Kerala State Disaster Management Authority. So, being a public servant, what are the cases which I would like to share with you? So, next slide. In my research, after tsunami, most of all the data, most of all the news were saying, compared to the male counterparts or male members in their household, it is the female members who really got back to their food and started to provide for their family. Usually, women used to say like they are risk averse, but when women are vulnerable and when they are exposed to any kind of risk situation, automatically they will take the whole thing. So savior fair is something which I came up with. So initially, first of all, I was looking into the economic aspect. So what are the economic livelihood opportunity which really help the women survivors of Alapad? And next one, in my another section, like in my MPhil dissertation, what I did is the political empowerment. Because when I started doing research on economic empowerment, I really understood that if certain people are belonging to certain spatial marginalities, certain caste marginalities, until and unless if they don't have a political representation or a political voice, they really won't be able to represent themselves. So these are the two aspects which I studied: their economic aspect and their political aspect. Next slide. There were so many characteristic features and aspects and components which I came across during my research, but two important factors which really struck me and I could build a women's agency for disaster management is, first one is psychosocial response, which Swami was pointing out earlier. In that, these are some of the anecdotes which I collected from the women survivors. So in that, many of them are telling like our husbands, our father-in-laws were completely devastated. Only our mother-in-law, earlier she was not able to give any word or say anything in the family discussions, but at the end she is the one who used to take care of us, and like emotionally, like many of the male members in the family tried to commit suicide. Earlier they were not able to listen to their family, female household, female members in their family. After the tsunami, they were listening to them. So many of the husbands, they were treating their wife as their own mother after tsunami, because emotionally they were not able to take care. So even the women were risk averse, but during the situation they took the risk and they were fighting for the cause. So next slide. So this is again the economic recovery, because earlier, as we know, like in the coastal belt of Alapa during 2004, the male members were the earning members. The females, they usually don't really got exposed to any kind of fish selling, or in Kerala, only one lady, she got boat license to do fishing in the open sea. Otherwise, female members always used to depend on inland fisheries. So while I communicated, they said because of Amrita Sri Kulus, like Amrita Sri Group, Amrita Sri HSCs and Kudumba Sri unit, we were able to do lots of economic livelihood opportunities. During that time, still men were more exposed into alcoholism because they don't have a hold on their life. So this is the framework which I came up with, Savior Fair. That means the Savior Fairy, women know how. That's a kind of women's agency for disaster risk management. Next slide. Though the basic learning is like gender equality. So whenever there is a situation where is there risk, women used to recognize their agency, and also when they are vulnerable to certain disaster, they will take up their certain roles in the traditional male-centric roles they used to tend to take up, and also they used to voice out for the rights which were being hindered for them for quite long in their family. Next slide. So this is the framework. So here maybe like I can add towards I was pointing out. So one of the best practices is like traditional knowledge. Women always have certain kind of inborn, like maybe a maternal, I don't know, like kind of knowledge within themselves. When there is a risk, they know how to cope up with this. With limited 2 spoons of rice, they know how to feed 4 mouths in their family. So like women know how to. So in the response phase, decision making mainly it coming from the traditional knowledge. So during the response phase, they are basically being an advocate, but in the recovery phase, they are being a confidant. So it's a collective action. So these are the kind of things which I come up with. So this I felt that's one of the best practices. When women are vulnerable to certain kind of disaster, they are able to take up their traditional mandated roles which are provided to their male family members. So this is one of the best, even though it's in an adversity, but they were able to enjoy their responsibility or enjoy their roles in the households. Next slide. So in the next slide. Like being a state project officer, currently we are running a project. It's nothing other than the Tsunami Ready TRRP Tsunami Ready Recognition Project. So in Kerala, we have 9 coastal districts. So we identified 9 coastal panchayat from each district as a pilot. So how we are doing that? There again, the collaborative effort. Next slide. So when first the project started to discuss, what we did is we identified major stakeholder. So there, as pointed out, the religious organization, everyone will come, because we in KSDMA we didn't want to do only the state level or the district level or the national level doesn't want to do. We want to incorporate all the community, because at the end community is the ones who has to respond to it. So we want to have the community as champions. So we were like facilitating everything and making the panchayat or the community to do everything. So what we did is like in KSTMA, like we identified around 5 universities. Amrita is one of the university, and they are taking care of all the activities related to Tsunami Ready with Alapat Grama Panchayat. So along with a panchayat, a university, and also we have other stakeholders. We have NGOs and also church-based and Karyogam-based. Like if it's a highly Christian populated area, then we have lots of Christian communities. And here in Alapad, we have Karyogams, like it's a Hindu oriented. So we don't want to leave anyone behind. So we collected all of them together. Next slide. Uh, so what we did is in the state level planning, what we did is like we introduced a certain kind of framework. In that, each steps what we have to do is, and also what are the needs and what are the actions needed to be take place and what are the responsibility each one needed to do. In that university, it's like we have to develop the tsunami evacuation map, we have to develop the tsunami evacuation plan, then how the mock drill have to be conducted, how it has to reach to the grassroots. So the entire planning was made. So it's a 6-step planning. Next slide. So first what we did is we did a state level consultation meeting. In that we invited all the 9 coastal panchayat presidents, and after that we conducted a grama panchayat pre-planning stakeholder meeting. Next slide. To make the community aware, then we conducted a PRA meeting with the university, how exactly we have to implement the activity. Next slide. And actually, in order to get a tsunami ready for certification, we have to attain only 12 indicators. But we incorporated 3 more: school safety, hospital safety, and updating our Grama Panchayat DM plan. It's again part of traditional knowledge, because the community and the hospitals and the schools and the Panchayat know what exactly is they are lagging behind. So it's a like two-way kind of learning process. So these are the 3 extra activities we try to incorporate. Next slide. Then hospital is safety program also happening. Please, next slide. Then school safety training program. So we identify all the schools in the coastal area, and like one representative from KSTMA will go and do the training program to them. Next slide. And also it should reach to everyone. So we are simultaneously developing documents also. It's part of school safety program. It's actually if I go from my position, the next one who is coming can also take up. They no need to do any kind of research or reviews. Next slide. So we have this 82 and 74 manuals of IOC UNESCO, but we developed some of the important.
Please.
Next slide. So these are some of the signages we develop in Hindi, English, and Malayalam, because we have migrant population, also tourists. Next slide. So this is the activities which is happening. First, we briefed everything, and next one is along with the community. Next slide. And then the panchayat members, then along with the community, we sat together and we developed the map. Next slide. And how the mock drill happened. Next slide. And these are some of the newspaper cuttings which related to that. Next slide. So this is the collaborative governance tsunami resilience framework which we come up with, because we don't not only wanted government, we along with the universities, because as PM rightly pointed out, 10-point agenda, we want universities. Along with that, we want all the important stakeholders together. So this is the framework which we're working on. Next slide. So this is something what we needed to have. First of all, we have to assess. Then the planning. Planning should begin from the grassroots. Even though state is there to look after, there will be the watchdog, but grassroots level planning has to be done. And community, indigenous knowledge. Most of the time by indigenous, they used to think it's tribal knowledge, but it's the traditional intelligence, as Swami was pointing out. So that needed to be there. Then collaboration with multiple agencies and addressing diverse needs. I think if we cover all these aspects, then we will be able to somewhat manage tsunami in the coming days. That's
So
it.
one small minutes comments on nature-based solutions.
Nature-based solution actually in Valiyaparamba, Grama Panchayat of Kasaragod district. Like recently, the Gram Panchayat president received, like in all over the world, Valiyaparamba Panchayat is the first Panchayat got selected because we have done a mangrove nursery there. So for the past couple of years, they've been growing mangroves. So in that, Valiyaparamba is also similar to Alapad, sandwiched between sea and lake. So somehow they were able to manage the like increasing sea tides and all. So that's why, and we are also working on dissemination of indigenous knowledge framework. That's a repository which in KSTMA we are working on. And Valiyaparamba is our first case study. And simultaneously, we are trying to do something in Idavanakadu, Ernakulam. So nature-based solution is also part of us.
Yeah, but mangrove is confined to only mouth of a channel.
Yeah.
But how about the rest of the coastal land?
Yeah.
Do we care for the coastal dune system or the beach barriers,
Yeah,
which are the natural defense system?
That also we have to, because some were really asking for the tetrapod, some really want the like sea walls. So that also we are like thinking and trying to come up with a solution. So Valiyaparam is
And check
just,
the illegal mining.
yeah, and CR is said, ma'am rightly pointed out. So those are some of the implications and fund
Okay.
limitation.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr.
One
Vidila.
small question, ma'am, very fastly I'll ask. So we are giving some devastating effects on the tsunami affected areas for the communities. There, how will we go through the post-traumatic stress disorder in the survivors?
So in Wayanad landslide, what we have done is like so far in post-disaster need assessment report in all over the globe, we have looked only the tangible assets. But first of the kind in KSTMA, we incorporated one chapter on intangible assets loss. So in that we incorporated psychosocial support and also environmental loss. So in that, what we are doing is like we have a pool of clinical psychologists. Like NDMA has a clear guideline, mental health, psychosocial support for disasters. So we have a pool of resource person, and along with the DMH, like District Mental Health Authority and the Health Department, we identified counselors and we are providing counseling training for them. So what we are doing is like we are identifying people from the community itself, because all the officers will be deputed to that area, and after a few months we will be leaving there. But the community people will be there. So what we are doing is like we are trying to find religious institutions, spiritual organization, and humanitarian organization. For instance, Nitivedi is one of the active organization in Wayanad. So they've been giving psychosocial support training for tribes and both a population. So like that, we are mainstreaming that kind of. So
Why I asked this question is recently in Japan when it happened, the people are not still come to their actual day-to-day activities.
Yeah.
They have a fear in them. What will happen the next moment?
Yeah, actually.
So that is the same thing what our Wayanad people are also going
Yes,
through.
definitely. Now, like children, they were not coming to school during rainy season because the sound itself was traumatic for them. Actually, even the officers who are working there 24/7, they itself are having nightmares. So it's actually actually for that we have to have this kind of community collaborative efforts along with the community, because that's why, for instance, migrant population, we had people from Assam, Jharkhand, Bihar, etc. But people from Assam doesn't want wanted to go back. Other places wanted to, because Assam been witnessing flood all the times of the year. So they are like, it's okay, fine, well and good. But for others, it was very traumatic. They immediately wanted to go. But the Ministry of Labor in like Kerala department, we didn't allow them to go. What if they go and commit suicide? So first thing we prioritized is the mental health. But it's a like painstaking and it's a long process, because in the initial phase we will be able to give only the psychosocial care. After that, the counseling, the clinical care need to be there. So it's not
Thank you.
going
Yeah.
to be.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Midhila. Now, few final words from Dr. Sudha. I'm sorry we are holding everybody here, but then I think to gain some
No.
gems of wisdom from you.
Oh.
Okay, please.
So everyone's spoken so well, and I've learned so much from everybody. So how are the nature-based solutions being propagated, and are they being degraded by humans? And we know in some places they are degraded. We've been hearing about how, because of land livelihoods, like in the Maldives, they have to expand their land, and they may have to take off some of the and mangrove systems. But in countries like Sri Lanka, where people live with nature so much, they love nature. I have seen it. I've lived over there for many years, and so I know. So there is wherever there is livelihood at loggerheads with the beauty of the place. I think there's always going to be this question: do we go for nature-based? And also, nature-based solutions don't seem to tell the people that they are safe. Somehow that education may not have come down to the younger generation. The older generation seems to know. And so they need the tetrapods. We had interviewed some communities here locally, and they were angry that the government was not giving the tetrapod system all along the coast. And we also know that if they put it all along the coast, this coast will get protected maybe, but somewhere downstream it's going to get affected. They're going to get flooded. So it's a give and take. And I think we have to educate the people. We cannot do it by ourselves. I know when the coral reef systems were being preserved, there were questions about doing carbon banking, or if you take away one coastline, go and bank it somewhere else and things like that. But I think for mangrove systems, I've heard more and more they are very difficult. The example that Midhila gave is a great story where the women and the people were involved in growing it and nurturing it. But if you just try to replant a mangrove system, it doesn't. So it takes a lot of time. That's just one. So for anything, we need the people, and that's my takeaway for nature-based solutions. We need the support of the people, and they need to believe that it will work. That's the first one. And then the second one is how best do we adopt modern technologies with traditional knowledge. I just came back from Banda Aceh, and they were talking about a very small island which you cannot even see on the map of on the coast of Banda Aceh. And they said that nothing, the maybe one or two people died. It's because the people of that island knew from their stories, which they'd been telling each other and through songs, that when the first wave comes, all you do is you have to run up the mountain. And they didn't wait, and not like the others who went into on the beach side and things like that. So they didn't have, and I've seen this even from when I visited Thailand just after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. People talked about the sea gypsies who don't have a country of their own. They go to Thailand, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia. They're just floating around in the Indian Ocean. And uh, they didn't lose many people because they were at sea, or they also knew the same thing, that if you see the sea recede. And it's again, they didn't have a script. And I met people from there, and they said, we had a couple of deaths, but we didn't have land, so we don't know where to bury our dead. And I had met some, and but they said that even without a script, we knew, because we had stories that we've been told for centuries, and we knew what to do. So definitely, we are so proud about our computers and our Twitter and I don't know, our WhatsApp. Every time I ask students, how will you communicate with people? They say, well, I'll give a message and I'll but more and more, when I live in a village over here, I know the best way that we can communicate is by a public service announcement or speaker, just on a small auto rickshaw going around and yelling. I think that's better. That, as well as the modern systems, are required, because otherwise we're going to lose out so much. The first thing that goes, and I heard this after the 2011 2013 flash floods in Uttarakhand. We lost a lot of lives. And when I went and spoke to the people, they said, we just had electricity for our first information to come from uphill, saying that there's a huge flash flood. I don't think I can come back, take care of the family. And that's it. After that, there was no electricity for the next maybe 1 week. And so what do you do? Even if you have the phone, there's the cell towers are down. You can't depend just on that. So we do need to have the traditional knowledge. We do need to have runners. We do need to have the olden system of maybe drums or whatever that might be. Each community can find their own way. And finally, about spiritual leaders, I think definitely Amma is a great example for us, those who are at Amrita. But having said that, that's not the only spiritual leadership. We heard from others about other, even church, the priest from the church, or even a very strong community leader could be spiritual enough for us. And so definitely they are very helpful. And I think I heard there was a group of us who were scientists, and we were supposed to work with meteorologists and with emergency managers and planners. And when we were talking together, the emergency manager back in the US said, I don't need to have the phone numbers of my whole community. I just need to know the priest's number. I need to know the person who is maybe the imam in a mosque. And I just need to know for all the religious leaders, because once I get that number, I just have to give them the information. So we do live in a society, no matter what, we do trust our spiritual leaders so much. And so we definitely have to bring them into the whole uh, community of emergency planning and risk communication. So that's my, thanks. Microphone.
Let us conclude our panel discussions. We have had very insightful contributions by the panelists plus our audience. Thank you very much, Dr. Kenji.
Okay.
Would you
See you
like to
tomorrow.
make some final comments before we close?
Oh, no. I have a keynote speaker presentation
sure.
tomorrow. So
Okay,
see you
yeah.
tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. So thank you very much, all of you. And now we'll be going in for the cultural program, as you said, right?
Yes, everyone, please come back to Amriteshwari Hall. We have 2 programs, and then after that, dinner. I hope you all are not very hungry.
So,
Yes, I
Dr.
hope.
Kenji, you will be missing it. Our cultural program.
Okay, see you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you.
Use of the mental health. They felt that it was the first.